Well, welcome to a new series from YouTube. So I'll be using Monogame to try and reproduce this 1980s 2.5D game. So it's basically an adventure game where you go through a tunnel and beat up monsters and solve puzzles and so on. So I loved this game when it first came out, and I've always wanted to try and copy it, so I've decided to do a clone on it. So this is how far I've got. There's a lot of code here, but it does deals with the first level. So the first thing I'll do is to show you what the original game running on an Amiga emulator looked like. Then I'll run this one. Then I'll go through what's coming up in the video series to come with gathering resources, creating databases, using tile to make the dungeons, and a lot of stuff. I'm expecting the whole thing will probably take maybe 30 or 40 episodes, but we'll just see how it goes. So this is Dungeon Master running on the Amiga emulator WinUAE in full screen mode. I won't be bothering to implement this screen because there's only one language involved. So here's the initial starting screen. We have 3 buttons and this scroll down here. So I'll do the scroll first. That just displays the original team who made the game in 1986-87, I think it was. Oh, it's just down here on the description. It disappears after about 10-15 seconds. So that will be replicated in the Monogame version. Quit would obviously quit us out of the game. Resume asks you to insert a save disk. I will implement resume once we've got a bit further with the game so that it can actually be saved. But at the moment the only one I'll be working on is enter, which opens the dungeon doors, as you can see. Now, once the dungeon doors are open, we're transported into the dungeon. There are just these movement buttons which you can click, or you can use keyboard equivalents which are on the I think it's the number key, no, it's the arrow keys plus del and page down to turn. So I'll be using a combination of those. So the dungeon here is fairly nondescript at the moment. Green slime on the floor, puddle, on the wall here is a hook, another hook ahead. We'll do a left, and some blurred writing in front here, Hall of Champions. Now facing this mirror which contains a champion. If you click on it, you get 2 choices, resurrect or reincarnate, and you see the character and his current statistics here. You can either resurrect, reincarnate or cancel if you don't want this particular one. For the sake of the game speed, I'll resurrect this one. So he comes out of the mirror, and then when you click on the bars here, you can see what, by clicking on his eye, you can see what, I can get that in, you can see the current skills at the top 4 lines, and then some of the statistics below. Also, if you can of course pick out a move if you look at that, you get a picture and some details about it. Let's put that back, and then this will skip out. So all this is replicated in the Monogame version. This one will do the same, except we're going to reincarnate this one. And what that does is it gives you this screen with some letters on. You can of course click the letters, or you can type in. So if I call this one Fred because it's easy, I can either leave the name like that and then press this little arrow here to move down onto the lines below, or I can just hit OK. There isn't apparently a way of cancelling this. Once you start on this, you're committed to taking this character. I'll just click on OK. So we've reincarnated Fred. So if we go back to his details here, he's still got the equipment he was given, but he's lost any skills that he had. So the 4 lines there at the top are blank. He has though increased his other statistics by 1 or 2. So for example, strength may have been originally 39, it's gone up to 40 because he's been reincarnated. So it's just a kind of way of modifying the game a little bit. Now the idea is that you go and collect 4 characters, which I will do now as quickly as I can. I shall simply resurrect them. As you can see, it appears down here for a few seconds. That again has been replicated, and we'll click the last one. So we've got all 4 characters in now. You can swap characters around. So I've now moved Iardo to the back. They don't change the positions along here, but they do change. For example, if I try and go forward now and bash the mirror, you'll see that Fred and Syra, because they're the 2 front characters, got bashed. So it's up to you how you put your characters. You can also choose a different leader by simply clicking on the name itself. So the one in yellow is the current leader. The leader is the person whose hand is on the screen now, so he's the one that's picking up or throwing or whatever he's doing. So let's go through. There's a floor plate here which opens the grid, and you've got an apple which we can put in there. This doesn't do anything, it's just decorative. There's more food in here, but I won't bother to pick that up at the moment. There's a torch here which you can remove. There's a water bucket and a scroll. If we go to the scroll, to just display briefly what's on it, you click it on the eye, and as soon as you let go of the mouse it disappears. Or you can put it in the hand here to get a more you can read it without having to hold the mouse button down. Let's put those back in. Round here is a staircase which goes down. I won't bother to go down at this stage. I have not implemented any other levels apart from the one we're currently on. This is the altar of Vi, so if one of the characters dies you can put the bones in here and it reactivates them. Another scroll in there. And as you can see, there's more stuff around here. There's a door here. And a room in here. Okay, so that's everything you see here is implemented in the Monogame version so far, which is the first one that I'll be putting up. So at least it's given you an idea of what we're trying to copy. So this, remember, is the Commodore Amiga version of Dungeon Master running on the WinUAE Amiga emulator on Windows 11. So we're now going to run the Monogame version of Dungeon Master. This line here is just to set the screen. I'm using twin monitors and the full HD monitor is to the left. So I've started the window position at this negative window width so that it starts up on this image rather than on my main 4K monitor. So let's hit the play button and we'll see what happens. Okay, so you can see we've managed to achieve the kind of introductory swoosh sound. Now that we've got to this screen, I've made it so that if I press the F key it will go full screen, so we'll switch to full screen. It is of course slightly stretched, but at least it's big enough to be showing up well on YouTube. So again, we've got the three buttons. Resume doesn't do anything at the moment. Quit will obviously quit the game. Enter will press in a minute, and as before we've got this credits using the scroll at the bottom. So this one's a mixture of the original one, followed by the graphics came from this guy called Alan Bearfield. In future videos, when I go into gathering resources, we'll show where I got them from and how his name has come up. So for the time being we'll enter. As before, the gates are open. Now you'll notice there's a distinct difference in the quality of the graphics here. These are not the originals, and they seem to be got a greater colour depth, and the shading is far superior. Controls are exactly the same, so I can use the arrow keys or the click on the buttons. Now you'll see that we've got some writing which is 2 squares ahead. Let me just go back once, so you can't see it there. We go here, you can see it. You can actually read it. Again, standing not actually on the square with the writing, still very clear. And finally when it's right in front. Now these of course are just experimental writing on the dungeon wall. They are there for debugging purposes, and I've used a font I found online. So this is actually a drawstring that's writing these, they're not images. So we'll go round. Okay, I'll start using the keyboard. I think that will probably be easier. So as before, we've got this slime on the floor. Then as we turn the corner, this should be a puddle. There it is. Better, higher quality puddle. Again, to this side we've got the hook. Again, a good quality one. Hook there. And again, writing. You can still read it. And there it is again. We've got the champion in this frame, so we can click on it. So we've got a couple of options as in the original game. We can resurrect, reincarnate or cancel. We'll just prove that cancel works. It returns us back to this. We'll resurrect this one, so the image disappears from the mirror. If I now try and go to the mirror, you just get this banging sound. We'll now go and collect another team member, and this one will reincarnate. So similar layout to the original. One slight advantage is that I can use the down arrow to swap between the name and title screen, and also pressing enter will accept whatever has been put in, as long as you've got at least one character in the title. So let's call this one Fred, and logs at the bottom, and I'm going to press enter. Now this one's been reincarnated, so if we click on the face here, you'll see that there are no, the first 4 lines are empty. There are no levels, no level up there. We go to Iardo. This one's a novice priest and apprentice fighter. So back to Fred, and this one will have to build up from the start, but strength, dexterity, etc. probably were 1 or 2 points more than were originally allocated. I can pick up items from the hands here and hand them to a different one. Now I can also move the positions of these 2 around, so if I take Iardo and put him down here and walk forwards, you'll see that only the yellow character Fred is actually being bashed. Put him back where he came from, and they both get the error points. So we'll move across and head out of the gate. I won't bother to collect all 4 champions. So you see the graphics on the grid here is quite good as well, and pressure plate looks different to the original game. So as before, the manacles here don't actually do anything, but you can collect food and so on. There's food in the one on the left here, and then again we've got the torch on the side here, or we can put it back as well. Let's put it in the hand for the time being. The scroll, if we put it on the eye, we can read it. Now you'll see this one is using a proper font. This is, I think, Sigoi script with a red back, and that way when the scroll is put into the hand properly, you can read it at your leisure. So we'll exit there. There's a couple of objects ahead. There's another scroll in here. Gives you a spell. Then down here again we've got an item here, and a button for a store. With a room with some items in it. The staircase here doesn't work. If I stand in, it just shows the walls around it. That's something I need to work on, but as you can see, the comparison between this one and the original game is I try to make it as accurate as possible. Again, one thing I haven't done is to enable you to throw. In the original game, if I had clicked on this apple in the air, it would throw, so that's another thing to be done. So we'll exit full screen. So what we'll be covering is the gathering of resources, dealing with everything, and putting the whole thing together. So just to give you an example, this is GIMP, and this is just one of many, I call them sprite sheets, but I think probably their correct name is an atlas, because you have multiple images on one screen, and that you can cut out the different areas as you require them, and sprite sheets are all the same size, whereas an atlas, so you've got images of different sizes. So this is the GUI. Then we've got the characters, we've got doors, floors, some of the items, walls. This is about half of what's involved. So you can see each one of these on the side here represents one of the layers in here, and that has, if I can show you, it has the coordinates and the size of it. If I can right click and get the layer boundary size, so you can get the size of the rectangle plus its coordinates on the sprite sheet, and that's all saved as part of the XCF file when these are created. So obviously I needed to, in order to crop sections out for use in the game, I needed to have some kind of system for collecting that grid up. So there's a little software I wrote in C# which does just that. So once you have created, these are, as you can see, we've got 13 of those XCF files which represent the images you were just seeing, and what this does is it reads the file and extracts that data into a readable format and saved as a text file. So that will need to be covered as well. Let's get that out of the way. Now obviously the dungeons need to be drawn, so we're using tiled, which shows you, if I untick some of these, there we go, that shows you all the parts of that layer, first layer, and which you have seen both on the original and on the clone here. So we'll need to go through that, how it's all put together and how to make new dungeon maps. As you can see, a lot of data involved here, so it seemed to me the sensible way of dealing with it is with, of course, a database. So this database is created from many different things. So for example, if we start with the champions here, these are the 24 champions that are put into the first layer, which you can select. There's a lot of data about their characteristics and so on there. We've then got coordinates of, well, there's 638 coordinates in here. Items, so again there's 176 items, various types and their characteristics. Just go back to the source rectangle, I think. So there's 1381 images from those files that you saw. So again, I wrote a program that will create this database for you from text files produced by the various other things. So there's a lot to cover, and I'm looking forward to doing it, and I think you'll probably learn quite a lot if you're thinking of converting your own game. So we'll get started on the subsequent videos as soon as I can.